Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of episode 1 of Black Narcissus. I thought I'd review this series that aired at the end of December 2020, just between Christmas and New Year. Thought I'd catch up on this, similar to the War of the Worlds and Dracula and Christmas Carol minisodes from 2019 into 2020. Black Narcissus, this is based on a book I've never read. I've never actually heard of this story until it was promoted on the BBC for this series. There's probably some other versions of it. I know there's a 1947 film which was later shown on BBC One or BBC Two a few weeks later. I think it was last week or this week, just a weekend's just gone actually. At time of recording this, it's Friday the 15th of January, so I think it was just gone Saturday. I'll be checking the film out as well and reviewing it on the Retro channel, and I'm reviewing each of these 3 episodes of this television version and doing a ranking for this channel, and you'll get those one a day for 4 days, with the film review might come on a 5th day, depending when I watch and review that. With the series, I'm going to be binging the series more or less back to back, but with reviews being filmed in between. So this review is coming between my viewings of episodes 1 and 2, and then I'll review episode 2 between episodes 2 and 3, and then episode 3, and then the ranking after that. But I'll be watching them more or less back to back with the reviews as sort of in the breaks. So, episode 1 of Black Narcissus. Okay, this one is a very set-up plot. This one is very much focused on setting up the characters and the location without giving too much away, which could be revealed later on. In fact, reading the description for episode 2 on BBC iPlayer, there are going to be some more revelations possibly coming up in the next episode, and we'll probably get some more in episode 3. The plot of the series is that a quintet, 5 nuns, led by the superior sister played by, in this series, Gemma Arterton, head up to this palace in Nepal or India, Nepal. I think it's India, but it might have been filmed in Nepal. But they go up to this old palace that used to belong to a general in the Indian army or the Napoleon army. And he's giving it to them to turn into a monastery and a school for local children. And they're taking over after a group of monks failed and were unsuccessful to do the same thing a year prior. So the 5 sisters head up to the monastery and try to get it prepared to become the new monastery, not the monastery, the palace, which they want to turn into a monastery and school. And they get help from the general's, I want to say architect advisor. It's probably not his official name, but they get some help from a Mr. Dean and also an elderly Indian woman caretaker. Mr. Dean also submits a friend of his also to the school, and they have a few other children starting out at the school, including the nephew or son of the general helping out. So that is more or less why they're there. They want to start up a monastery and school in the general's former palace. And it turns out that it used to be the home of his sister, who in the pre-titles scene, in the opening couple scenes with the titles going on now and again, cut to black and have some names whilst the scene's going on. It's apparently where his sister died, or as we see in the opening, committed suicide. And we could be learning a bit more about why in the next episode. So, yeah, most of the episode is basically just the characters going here and repairing the building and preparing it to become the monastery and school. But there's a few unnatural presences at the place that throughout the episode we see a little bit of. And that is going to be our main story going forwards, that this place is supposedly haunted, possibly by the sister of the general, the ghost of the general sister. And I think that it does go a bit quite slow in places. There's a few mysterious things happening. There is a lot of kind of spooky stuff happening, but it's quite low key. It's not too noticeable in play. There's a few places where it's noticeable, like the death of a cat, but it's quite low key. Not really much seems too much out of the ordinary. But then things start to rev up a little bit in the last third of the episode when the ghost tries to take possession of Sister Ruth, who seems to be getting pretty unwell throughout the episode. Sister Ruth is one of the 5 sisters. Along the main character is Sister Cleo, something along those lines. It's an Irish name apparently. So it's not really Clo. I'm not sure. Maybe future me might be texting. Might have texted the name in the editing. There's also a Sister Bryony, who's a more older lady. There's another one, and then there's also a black one who I heard the name, but I can't remember it right now. I definitely can't remember the other one. In fact, that last one, possibly Sister Honey, I'm not quite sure. She gets barely anything to do in this episode, so yeah, I'm not surprised I can't remember her. But the other ones get a good amount of stuff to do. So in terms of characters, one of the nuns gets absolutely nothing to do, and the other 4, well, the black one, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name at this point. Maybe for the next review, or maybe I'm typing it below. She gets a few couple scenes. The other 3 get quite a bit to themselves, as does Mr. Dean, who I like. He's not a very religious man. Which the head nun Chloe, I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong, disapproves of. But yeah, I think Mr. Dean was a good character, and I thought the other characters were done pretty well, apart from the nun who has hardly anything to do. I'm wondering whether she'll be in more of the series. According to the description of the next episode, a character is leaving and another one's coming in. In terms of the actual story, not really much does happen, at least not until the last 12 or so minutes at least. There is, like I said, there's a few bits of haunting and it's mostly set up, but there isn't really an awful lot to what's actually going to go on for the entire series. There's not an awful lot of that until we get to the last third, which I think is a bit of a disappointment. I think it needed to have a bit more spooky goings on in the first 2 thirds, or at least in the second third, before we got to the stuff is going to go down major towards the end of the final act of this episode. Perhaps that was intentional so that we can have more spooky stuff going on in the next 2 episodes and characters can get a bit more hysterical and scared in the following episodes. But it just felt like a very... I don't want to say empty, because there was stuff going on and there was stuff I was interested in, despite this probably not being a series that would be probably targeted at me or that I would not usually be interested in. But there was stuff going on, and there was some good stuff. But I think we should have had a bit more spooky stuff going on throughout the episode, because this is supposed to be a horror drama series. Maybe there's going to be more in the next 2 episodes. This is definitely the build-up episode. But to establish it more, I think it needed to happen a little bit more in the second and third. Some characters have a bit of visions and there's some stuff going on, but there isn't really anything terribly significant until the final act, besides the opening scene, of course, and mentions of the monks not being able to stay there and the place not being very nice. But in terms of the actual hauntings, not really much happens until Act 3, which is a bit of a shame. A few stuff in Act 2, tiny little bit in Act 1, but I think there could have been a little bit more in Act 2, just to give us a bit more of a taste than what we got. Overall, I think Black Narcissus episode 1 is a good episode for characters, apart from the one who has hardly anything to do, but it's not that great in terms of building suspense or scares, at least until the last 10 minutes or so of the episode, where it starts to actually rev up a little bit. So yeah, it's good for characters, but it's not so good for the scares and the horror angle that we're going for with the series. So drama, tick. Horror, not so much just yet. But we got 2 more episodes, so we can see where it goes. Apparently the film version by the I think is about an hour and is about just under 2 hours, I think. So that is just. This is going to be This is going to be about a 3 hour series, or a little under 3 hours. So that filmed probably um 2/3 as long as this series. So I'm wondering if this episode stretched out the pre-scariness stuff a little bit longer. I'm not sure. I'll know when I check the film out. But as for the TV series, and that's the 47 film, by the way, I'm not sure if there's any other adaptations. But as for the 2020 television series, this first episode was mostly set up, but I think we should have had a little bit more scares in the second act, so that we can get a little bit more of a taste before we get the full-on scary stuff and supernatural stuff happening at the end of the episode, and whatever happens in the next 2 episodes. So I'll be giving Black Narcissus episode 1 a 7 out of 10. I just feel like we should have a bit more scares in places, and I think we needed to pick up the story a little bit more. It needed to pick up the pace, because for about 45 minutes is quite a bit of a slow story. Like I said, there's a couple of spooky moments throughout, but it's only really in that last 9 to 12 minutes that we actually get some actual stuff going down, and tensions arise and emotions flare, etc. But I think we needed to have a little bit more of that at least for another 10 to 15 minutes from about halfway onwards. So yeah, I think we should have had a bit more of the spooky stuff, and I think we should have picked up the pace after the halfway mark, before the 3/4 mark. So we should have had a little bit more. But the final couple minutes are pretty interesting. I mean, the whole thing had some interesting moments, but I'm looking forward to seeing how they tackle the horror angle and the emotional flair between these characters, because I don't suppose nuns are supposed to be that emotional outside of devotion to God, but now we're starting to see emotions flaring between each other at the very end of that episode. So that's going to be interesting to see play out, as well as what happens between them and other characters in the series. So I look forward to seeing how that goes down in the second and third episodes. So join me tomorrow for my review of Black Narcissus episode 2. Things are going to get very interesting now that the horror angle is picking up, and there's going to be a bit more of an emotional story going on with our characters. So until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. Was it Sister Honey? Actually, it might have been. Actually, it might have been Miss. Actually, the other one might have been Sister Honey. That one actually gets barely anything to do in that episode, so I wouldn't be surprised that that one actually gets barely anything to do. So I'm not. For the most parts. So yeah. So in terms of characters, because, well, being a nun, she's probably very set in the ways of God. Whilst Mr. Dean is a bit more, what shall we say? Whilst Mr. Dean has his reservations, he doesn't mind religion. He likes religion, just so long as they don't try to, if one religion doesn't try to become the dominant religion, which is how he feels war starts. And to be honest, he has a massive point. He has a massive point. So, well, it's either really, or it's either usually wars are fought over religion or war. No, usually wars are wars are fought over religion or politics. They're probably those are the two most common reasons. Those are the two most common reasons for war starting. That, and a third reason would be pissing people off for one reason or another. apart from the one who has the nun who had our heart. Um, but yeah, um, in terms of the story, I don't think it went that very far. It is a very perhaps that is how perhaps and characters can start to go a bit hysterical or scared, but I think to establish it more, we should have had it a little bit more often. I also feel like that, yeah. But to establish it more, I think we needed it to have a, apart from that one who has ha, and I'm not sure. When I'll check the film, I'll put because I think that would have then given us a bit more of a taste for what's coming in at the end of the episode. So join me tomorrow as these reviews will be coming out daily for 3 days, with the ranking following on a 4th day, possibly the film on a 5th day on the Retro channel, but we'll see. But join me tomorrow for episode 2. I will be doing these back to back, obviously. Like I said, I'll be reviewing these back to back, but you'll be seeing these daily. And we'll see how that goes down. Things are going to get interesting, or at least I hope they're going to get a bit more of this series. So, until tomorrow,